Hello everyone, this is Babamots. Welcome to another Homeworlds commentary. This match is between Alexandr10 and Denys Voloshyn. And you know everything I know about this game. I picked it randomly. It began on April 23rd of 23, and it looks like this is the first time that either of these two players has played, since they both have 0 points, 0 rank points. Although for Alexandr, it doesn't say this is my first game, so maybe they played a training game. But, and they both picked a Canadian flag, so maybe they're both Canadian. And I guess the other thing I know about this game is that based on the size of the slider here, this is not a game where both players quit after a couple of turns. This game goes on long enough to be at least a little bit interesting. It could be. If this turns out to be a really bad game, then you won't be watching this video. But if it is good, then welcome. All right. Alexandr starts off and picks a reasonable homeworld. This is a red fortress. Denys goes next. They pick a yellow Goldilocks. Let's see if Alexandr builds. Yes. So does Denys. Good, good. So far, so good. Alexandr trades for yellow. Yeah, that's all right. I'm a little surprised that neither of them picked blue, since blues give easier access to medium builds on account of the small blue star, but both of them picking to trade to the color of the other person's non-blue star is not totally strange. Alexandr building green again, so does Denys. Alexandr moves their yellow out. I would have recommended moving the green out or continuing to build yellow maybe, since moving out the yellow means Alexandr won't have yellow at home anymore. Denys continues to build red. I like that better, especially since Alexandr's discovery of a small red star means that Denys will actually be able to build a medium before they even move a ship out of their homeworld. That looks pretty good for Denys. Well, Denys thinking about moving their large ship out of their homeworld. They commit to it. I don't like this very much. It spreads out their greens nicely, so they can continue to build green in more places, but it leaves their home without a large, and while that isn't a problem right now, it can become a problem very, very quickly, and sometimes it becomes a problem at a moment when you are not prepared to return a large to your home. At least not for a large, at least sometimes it's very costly to do so. All right, Alexandr, thinking about just building green again, now trades for blue. I like the trade for blue pretty well. I'm going to get blue at some point, although that's leaving that yellow out there in the Alti colony. Not much to do. All right, Denys continues to build on Gilligan's Island here. Denys won't be able to do much with those greens unless a yellow comes to visit them. Or Denys could sacrifice something to shake things up on the island, I suppose. All right, Alexandr building more green. This is opening up the medium greens. Denys will probably take one of those. Yes. I'm a little surprised they're taking it in the colony instead of at home, since that gives them 3 of the same color. Alexandr could threaten to overpopulate the greens in Bleb just by pushing a little green forward, and these greens have no way to move away or trade for other colors. I guess what Denys could do is sacrifice one of the greens, maybe the medium, in order to green teleport, rebuild it back in the homeworld, plus another build, I suppose. Alexandr, interesting, sacrificing the green, change their mind, build blue instead. That's fine, I suppose. Although if I'm Alexandr, I would want to get green back at home pretty quickly. Oh, and I suggested pushing a small green forward. They don't have any yellow at home, so they'd have to sacrifice yellow to do it. That's probably not worthwhile. All right, building more green. Denys here should clean out the rest of the greens. They've got a shopping spree opportunity. Sacrifice the G3, build the 2 remaining greens in their homeworld, and they then rebuild the large green in Bleb. But this is a new player, so I'm guessing they won't see it. I think it's more likely they just build a G2 at home. Sacrificing the G2, they realize that wouldn't do much for them, maybe? Tried it a couple different ways. Yeah, just building the G2 at home as expected. Okay, what does Alexandr do? I bet they trade one of their greens for yellow. Sacrificing the green for a double build. Ooh, an overbuild. I wonder if they will notice that 4 greens at home are a problem. They did. That's good. All right, trading for yellow is pretty good, I think. They need to get yellow at some point anyway. I doubt it's their best move, but... All right, Denys also trading for a yellow ship. Okay, that opens up the medium yellows. Alexandr spreading out the greens. They might be trying to build more green, or they might be wanting to give a larger defender to the Alti colony. Denys sacrificing G2 to build yellow and red. That's pretty nice. Denys is close to closing out the red bank, making it pretty tough for Alexandr to get any red. Alex takes a yellow. And with that build of that medium yellow, Denys needs to look out for the 3 yellows they have at home. Alexandr's in striking distance. Alexandr changes their mind and builds green instead. Nope, they change their mind again to get a yellow. Denys had better trade or move one of those yellows. I think I like moving one of those yellows to the colony so that these greens can play a more active role. Spreading out the reds. So this is, I think, a pretty poor move. One thing, it fails to deal with the threat of Alexandr sacrificing Y2 to move the Y1 to Denys's homeworld to overpopulate the yellow star. Second thing it does is takes a medium yellow out of the bank, opening up the larges for Alexandr to build. And there's probably another reason to not like it. It leaves the greens stranded. It does spread out the reds so that Denys has another place. Denys can continue building reds for longer. It has that advantage, but... Okay, let's see if Alexandr sees the chance to destroy a star. Sacrificing G2 to build 2 yellows. Okay. So they build not only the one large yellow, but the other one as well. Denys could sacrifice a yellow to move the other yellow into Alti to destroy these. Alexandr would still be ahead somewhat in material, I think, since they have the a second large ship even after one of them's destroyed. Let's see if Denys thinks of that. Sacrifice Y2 to move the little yellow to Alti. They do. So they thought of it at least. Let's see if they commit. They do. All right, Alexandr. I'd like to see them get some red. Both because Denys is sort of threatening to carry away most of the reds, and with a red in hand, Alexandr is close to winning if Denys doesn't defend properly. It's difficult for Denys Denys has no way to get their large green back home. They could sacrifice the green to build lots of red and end up with a large red at home. But if Alexandr, say, traded their large green for red, or even one of their smalls for red, then on their next turn they could sacrifice y3 to move their large into Denys's home. And if Denys hadn't reinforced with a large by then, Alexandr could start capturing things and probably win. Let's see if Alexandr thinks of that. Moving to a small red star I think is particularly bad, as it gives a boost to the red economy, and Denys will get larger ships faster. Yeah, Denys gets a medium because of that. Star discovery. Alexandr now, if they're going to get yellow, if they're going to get red, they'll have to trade a large for it, which is not ideal, I think. Building green. Yeah, so Alexandr, building green now I think is a good idea, with the intention of trading G3 for R3 on the next turn. Gotta get some red. Denys moving the only green out of their homeworld. So Denys might be nervous about building a third red at their home. They may be preferring to move the green to a colony so that they can build an R3. I get pretty nervous when I only have one color of ship at my homeworld, especially if there's two of them. Alexandr, though, doesn't have any red, so it's not a big problem. Alexandr, I think, should trade for the R3 instead of this little green build. With an R3, not only could they send it across the universe for an invasion that starts threatening to capture everything, but it's also threatening to overpopulate all of Denys's home ships and winning that way. So Alexandr should trade for that R3, but they want the G1, or maybe the B1. A little indecisive. Trading their Y3 for a G3. That gets rid of their opportunity to send a ship across the universe. So that's not such a good idea. Denys is not anywhere close to building that G3, so it doesn't even block anything. It just gives up a color and a lot of movement opportunity for nothing, as far as I can see. I wonder what they were thinking. And Denys can make a big threat just by pushing their medium green forward into a small yellow star. They'd be threatening to catastrophe most of what Alexandr's got. But Denys's better move is to build R3, maybe even to sacrifice the G2 to build two of them, or maybe even to sacrifice the G3 to build all three of the large reds. Let's see what they pick. Just a little green build. Trading for blue. Who needs a big ship anyway? Yeah, it's good for Denys to get access to blue. The only real problem with that is that they had access to large ships to build that would bring them up even in material, and they didn't take it. All right, Alexandr, now they get an R3, but they don't have the yellow to send it across the universe anymore. All right, Denys going on the offensive, invading that colony. The little yellow can just run away, so there's no danger of actually capturing here. Alexandr might consider sacrificing the little yellow, both to get it out of harm's way and to let them bring another ship into this colony to threaten to capture the medium. Looks like Alexander's ignoring the threat, building a green, building a blue, thinking about trading for yellow. Okay, that's one of their less strange options. With that yellow, Alexander could now, on their next turn, move one of these larges to the colony to capture that medium green if it doesn't leave by then. Okay, Denys captures the little yellow. Does Alexander counterattack? Yes, with the red. Denys now, my guess is they run away with the green. They do. They run away with it because it's the bigger ship. Although, if Alexander captures that little yellow, Denys will be back to having no yellow ships at all. Alexander does take it. What does Denys come up with now? I think they should be clearing out those R3s. Just build a red. They could vanilla build the R1, or they could sacrifice either of their non-small greens to get a large ship, which seems like it would be nice. Okay. Denys moving their blue to Samori. That's a nice thing in that they will be able to build more blue and diversify the colors of anything else that they happen to build there. The problem with that move is that Alexander has a large ship that could move to Samori, and this is the type of invasion that I think even new players will recognize the benefits of. Although, if Alexander does invade Samori with the R3, Denys can sacrifice, say, the G2 to double build reds, wiping out Alexander's R3, and then the game's looking a lot more even. So maybe so the invasion is actually not all that good, and whether Denys recognizes that or not, they don't seem to be worried about the invasion. All right, Alexander building blue. That is the largest ship they can build safely, so that's probably good. Denys also building medium blue. Okay, Alexander is taking the invasion. I think it's a good chance that neither of them will think of the sacrifice to overpopulate the R3. So I think it's more likely that Denys just runs. If I was just going to run, I would save the blue, medium blue. After that, Denys will still have green. Denys thinking about just building a green someplace else, trading for green back at home, invading the colony. Okay. The trouble with invading that colony is Alexander can just reinforce with red, and Alexander will be capturing bigger ships than Alexander is. Oh, and the more obvious problem, of course, that Denys still doesn't have a large at their homeworld. Yeah, somehow in the midst of everything, I forgot about that. Yes, well, yes, that is, in fact, Alexander's correct move. Denys do a little capture, but I bet Alexander's not going to miss their opportunity to win. There it is. Okay, well, a rather short and simple game. Some pretty big mistakes on both sides, but something to learn from, especially if you're a newer player. And if you're a newer player, welcome. Thank you for watching. Looks like, so we have Alexander's perspective. Looks like Alexander has their language settings to Russian. But uses Canadian flag. Interesting. All right, well, that's all I've got to say for now. Thank you for watching.